time, I'd like to introduce Cecile Stelzer Johnson. She's a retired teacher and now a dedicated pollinator and permaculture enthusiast. After retiring, she learned that pollinators and birds were in trouble and so started keeping bees in her backyard. Her concerns regarding changes in food distribution, monocropping, loss of habitat, crop insurance, parasites, and misunderstandings regarding our own place in nature have fueled her interest in bees. She believes that permaculture is really a way back to our roots and to sound ecology for the benefit of all. So please let me introduce Cecile Stelzer Johnson, or Frenchie. You might hear this from the accent.
I have an accent.
Yes.
You guys have an accent. Okay. Yes, I used to teach French and Spanish right here in Wisconsin Rapids, and once I retired, I figured indeed that I needed to do something else with my life that would keep me out of trouble. Politics is not enough. And so I started raising bees and keeping them, trying to keep them alive from year to year. Not an easy task these days. Some of the things that I would like to point out to you is that what we're dealing with right now is a perfect storm. We have a number of factors that are all getting together to crunch pollinators. And the first thing that I would like to deal with is a change in food distribution. In the last 100, 120, 150 years, there have been a lot of changes in the way that we, human, access food. We used to just go to have a lot of small farms, and it was easy to barter and make arrangement with your local farmer. And then we started having chains. Why chains? Because it is more convenient. It's more convenient for us, and it's also more convenient for the chains. Because all of these local farms, local co-op, local little food stores have converted to all-in-one supermarkets. For a while it was, on one hand you'd have the dry goods, and on the other hand you'd have the food. Now we have things more like Walmart, where you have your dry goods and your food all together in one spot. And we went, yeah, this is really convenient. The problem with supermarket is that supermarket can shift prices to favor some far-out items. And we can get some strawberries from Peru right now. If you look outside, those strawberries are not from around here. So as they were organized in chains, they can offer more exotic products, which is good for us. But the small food stores that used to be in this area, they had mostly access, and they tried to have access to more exotic food, but they were fighting a losing battle. And the reason is that the supermarkets can sustain low prices in one area. They have a large assortment of things, but they can make it so that they tank the competition. If your milk sells for this much, and they can find somebody from someplace else that can sell it for you for less, well, they can undersell you. And if the underselling lasts long enough, your little store will have to close. It's been like that with bakeries and dairy food stores and all kinds of things. There are not very many left. And they have done that. One thing that we don't always think about is that actually those little local stores and co-ops and everything, they were the real example of free trades, because they rose and they fell on their own merits without subsidies. So we're paying for the convenience of having Walmart-like stores, but we're also paying for those things in the form of subsidies. We subsidize those stores either outright, or else by subsidizing their employees. So one of the solutions would be for yourselves to grow a garden. Become a locavore. A locavore is somebody who eats local food, and local food only. You know, before the advent of the potatoes in Europe, the only thing that would sustain people in the winter was cabbage. Lots and lots and lots and lots of cabbage. We would eat cabbage, and that is pretty much how we did it. And after that, we had sauerkraut and salads early in the spring. But our diet really has changed because we have been able to get potatoes in Europe. And then the other change, now that you have those large supermarkets, well, if I go with my dozen eggs or my 5 pounds of strawberries and I want to sell them, I can't really go to Walmart and say, hey, look, I got strawberries. You won't, right? You want strawberries, right? Huh? They'll say, well, yeah, but what do you have, the 5 pounds? You're kidding, right? No, we need to have tons of it. And I'm looking at my little parcels, yeah, I guess I'm screwed. If I want to sell my strawberries, I'll have to do it on the side of the road, maybe, or rejoin a co-op or something like that. But monocropping has occurred because we now have large food chain superstores. And it is more profitable for them to have large fields to pull from to offer a large amount of food. So we need the quantity, and we need also the quality. I'm putting that in air quotes because quality is not always quality. The problem with monocropping, let's say for example soybeans. Yes, my bees, my honeybees, might be interested in soybeans. But the soybean, you pretty much grow it in the entire season. You can do maybe a small rotation in the beginning or in the end with another crop, but it just stays there for the year pretty much. It is an annual, so you have to till the soil, you have to weed the soil, you have to do all kinds of things, plant your seed, and then you wait, and you wait, and you wait, and the bees wait, the pollinators wait, and then there it goes. Oh, flowers. It has flowers. My bees are happy. Everybody is happy. But a flower will, on a soybean, will last 4 or 5 days. That is the access that my bees have on one of those flowers. Now, thank goodness there's lots and lots of flowers, but if they all peak around the same time, well, that's 5 days that they can feast. And then, what do they do for the next 360 days? So they need to have a lot more than that. And we need to increase the diversity of things that you grow in the environment. Remove these expansive lawns. I don't know who in the world convinced us that a yellow dandelion was ugly or that white clover was ugly. Oh yeah, it was Monsanto. They told us. Yeah. So we had to. There is a beautiful thing. Maybe Penny would think of that one, because I think that's where I've seen it. It's St. Peter talking to God about the lawns and what goes on, and say, well, you know, I've given you all this environment, and well, the humans, they need to have a clean lawn, so they mow it. They mow it? They mow all the flowers? Yeah. And, well, then, what do they do with that? Oh, they cart that away and they throw it. Oh my gosh. And it goes on, and at the end you realize really how foolish it is to have any amount of lawn in there. So anyway, what you need to do, what we need to do, is increase the diversity of things that you grow in the environment. If we don't, then you have, especially with annual crops, because as a permaculturist, I really believe in trees. In a tree, you have an item that is already there. It has the roots. It is just waiting for the sunshine and the warmth. And as soon as you have the sunshine and the warmth, poof, you get flowers. Very soon after, you get flowers. But in a row crop, you need, as I was saying, to plant the darn thing and weed it and whatnot. So, after that, the other thing that we need to understand is what happened with ethanol. In the 70s, we suddenly had a gasoline scare that we were not going to have enough crude, that we needed to drill, baby drill, or somehow find some other countries where we could buy some oil, go to war if we needed to get the oil, or a peaceful idea was to grow corn for ethanol. I ride a motorcycle, so once in a while I go to Sturgis, and it is absolutely striking. You leave this state and you go into Iowa, you look to the left, you look to the right, and it is corn as far as the eye can see in all directions. And the problem with this is that corn is a grass technically, so it does not need pollinators. It is wind pollinated. And it does make some pollen, but the pollen is too coarse. My bees don't like it. And most pollinators don't really like the pollen of corn. So it is too coarse to be attractive to the bees. And then there is also what we spray on the corn. Because their bodies are hairy, they tend to collect all kinds of dust particles. And if that dust particle is some kind of icide, I'll get back to the icides in a minute, then you end up having some chemical products that enter the hive, and that is not good. It's horrible for the bees. It's also horrible for the honey. So here is another one. But you see, a lot of those solutions are not really easy solutions. They require a serious change on our part. We need to keep looking for cleaner ways of transportation. If you can ride a bike, although right now it's not a good idea, but have bike paths in town, renewable fuels, some other renewable fuels, electric cars might be an idea. So that is some of the stuff that we can do. The next thing we're going to talk about that came with this whole new way of feeding the world is the so-called crop insurance. Now, I'm not talking about the regular insurance. Thank you. I'm not talking about the regular insurance that is sold to the farmer to leave their land lay fallow and still get paid. I'm talking about the icides. Frankly, if you are a farmer, and I'm sympathetic to the farmer, you have a crop that's going to be attacked by some bugs, and the ear of corn may not look quite as good unless you grow it a certain way using some icides. And the icide is a whole host of things that will give your crop that perfect look. And here again, look in the mirror for those who are guilty of, oh, I'm not going to choose that apple, it has a little blemish. Okay? I want to have the good red apple, shiny, it looks perfect, right? And frankly, every creature in the world is wired that way. We're always looking for the best looking blade of grass, the best looking potato, the best looking apple. That's the way that we're wired, because healthy looking is everything. All right. So you have products for keeping those crops looking perfect, but it is hard work and it is also expensive work. So start thinking about how much money is being put on those crops. There are products for keeping the fields free of weeds, such as herbicides. We were talking about Roundup. There are products for keeping the fields, to make the fruit bigger, such as fertilizer. Product to keep the insects away, such as insecticide. Product to keep the mold and mildew away, the fungicide. And each and every one of these hurts pollinators. You might not think that a fungicide is something that hurts a pollinator, but they do have an internal system, just like us, to digest the nectar and the honey that they eventually make. If they don't have the right gut bugs is the best way I can put it, in order to digest those things, then they are in the position that we're in when we take a run of antibiotics. You take antibiotics and you run for the bathroom. That's because it just ruins whatever your fauna and your flora is inside of your gut. When you do that with fungicides to the bees, that is exactly what you're doing. And I'm pretty sure that other pollinators as well don't like to have their food ruined that way. So each and every one of those products is harmful to pollinators. There's also the mode of application. Each pass on a large field is expensive. So you're going to put some Roundup, and then some insecticide, and then something else, some fungicide. You put all kinds of things on your field. You make several passes, or you think, how about making one pass? Putting them all in there, making a wonderful cocktail. And the problem is with that cocktail is that it is a lot more injurious than each and every one of them taken separately. So you make that cocktail and you just spray with abandon. And that really, really is not good at all for the bees, because the sum is called synergy, where the sum of each one of these is a whole lot worse. The whole is a whole lot worse than the sum of these. So the problem is the combination makes a cocktail that is worse. And then, of course, you also have some farmers who think that, well, if I still had some bugs with 100 gallons, maybe I should put 200 gallons. You know, and frankly, people in the garden also do the same kind of thing, unfortunately. So that's crop insurance. Insecticides, of course, are targeting insects, but amongst all the insecticides, there is a special class that you should be very wary of. It is what we call systemic insecticides. And neonicotinoids that you probably have heard about are such a product. They're systemic. What that means is that you put it on the seed or you put it in the pot with the plant grows, and every piece of that plant is poison. So we don't always feed the world, sometimes we poison it. And what you do, when the poison is present in every part of the plant, that means that the roots, the stem, the flowers, the nectar, which my bees like, and the pollen, which they need to raise their brood, each and every one of them is poisonous. And then the plant eventually dies, but there is still a residue. So we till that under, add biomass, right? Except now your biomass is kind of poisoned too. So now it is in the soil as well. The solution, and I would, if you get nothing else out of this presentation, this is really important. Be a savvy consumer. I bought some delphiniums, I won't tell you from where, but it was from a big box, and a number of big boxes are doing that. They actually spray some systemic insecticide on the plants that they sell you. Why, oh why, would they put something on there that kills honeybees and all kinds of other pollinators? It's because of you. You are afraid to get stung by a bee. So when you are walking all over in the Walmart parking lot or Home Depot parking lot, if there is a bee, oh my God, oh, I might be allergic, huh? And so they end up spraying that stuff. I noticed it when I had some delphiniums and I had some bees that were not going on the delphiniums. They were going on some of the alliums that I had right next door. They seemed to be really happy with that, but they were not going on the delphiniums. And I did a little backtrack, and that's when I came across the article and say, hey, no, you know, if it's been sprayed with systemic, you're screwed. Your bees are screwed. There is another problem with the way that we are growing the foods, is that we are putting some stuff that kills all the life out of the soil. Somebody was mentioning the earthworms. If the earthworms gets killed, that's the big ones that you see, but there's all kinds of microrhizobia, I can't pronounce that word, but your soil is alive. If you put some Roundup, some herbicide on it, it dies. All of your earthworms will die, and all of the fungus, the beneficial fungus that lives in your soil, dies. So that is the problem. As you repeat the cycle, instead of rotating crops where you have a heavy feeder followed by maybe a not so heavy feeder, and you put a little bit of manure in between or mulch or something, your soil is somewhat replenished, or hopefully you'll plant legumes. But if you don't, your soil gets poorer and poorer. What does that mean for your crop? In French, we say that the prettiest girl in the world can only give what she's got. And so it is for the soil. If your soil is poor, it is not going to grow a nice crop. Unless, of course, you just pour fertilizer on there and you think that you've done the right thing. I would like to just mention something about Roundup while we're at it, because that is the depletion of the soil is also tied to the rise of Roundup and such herbicides. Roundup was first, actually not Roundup, glyphosate, which is the main ingredient of Roundup, was first patented in 1935. And in 1935, it was used as a pipe descaler. A pipe descaler. You know what that is? That is something that a plumber needs to keep the pipes nice and clean. So they poured that glyphosate on those pipes and let it stew a little bit, and then they needed to rinse the stuff. So they bring all these pipes on the lawn, and they flush the pipes, and they flush the inside and the outside, and they look and suddenly, the grass is dead. Oh, glyphosate kills grass. Guess what? I have a choice if I patent glyphosate as Roundup. I can either sell it to, I don't know, maybe 10,000 plumbers in the area, or I can sell it to everybody who wants to kill some grass. That's a tough choice. Okay, let's make herbicide. We're just, what is happening to the soil is also happening to the food that we are ingesting. And if you're wondering about why some of us are getting so plump, it is because the food lacks nutrition. And there are, I have handouts to give to each one of you because I believe in actually doing research and giving you the article so that you can look up what I'm telling you. And what we have with that is that over the years, some cereals have lost 1/3 of their nutrition. That means, I don't know if you're good in math, but that means that you have to eat bigger portions so that you still get the amount. Okay? And sure enough, when you eat more, you're going to get plump. Okay. So this is one thing that we need to do. We need to stop treating the soil like it is just an anchoring device. Just put the roots in there and the plant will stay straight up. Tilling it every year, that also kills bugs, and it messes up all the layers of good food for your soil. And look into permaculture. I don't know if you're starting to see a model here. Look into permaculture. It's called the leitmotif. Okay, and then something that we have that is more specifically honeybee related, and it is a very nasty parasite of the honeybee. It's a varroa. The full name is Varroa destructor, with good reasons. Varroa is a parasite that latches onto a honeybee, and it looks very ugly. It looks like a little spider that has 8 legs right in front of it and goes. And if I had a Varroa destructor on my back that was size for my size, it would be like that. And so when you have 3 or 4 or 5 of these, and they come on me and they start sucking my blood, not my hemolymph, because the bees have hemolymph, but we have blood. It would not be good for me. And whatever virus that this Varroa destructor carries, I would get then. It's a little bit like some species of animals that can carry the rabies but not die from it. Well, this is a little bit the same thing. The Varroa destructor can carry all kinds of viruses that harm the bees, but they don't die of it, unfortunately. So it is really, really tough. As far as solution, we do not have anything really foolproof. Each one can only do so much damage. Each Varroa can only do so much damage. But there again is synergy at work. In the past, believe it or not, this is not just something that has cropped up since the 80s. It has been with us since the 80s, but it has happened many times before. But in those days, our bee population was a whole lot healthier, and they were able to fight it off. Think of it as an immune system. And the Varroa attacks their immune system. So once their immune system is depressed, then all of these other viruses can easily overwhelm our bees or other pollinators that rely on that. As far as a solution, we don't have any. We're trying to raise some kinds of bees that will groom themselves. So, because bees, you know that they have a stinger, but on the other end, they also have mandibles, and they can actually bite this varroa. And they inject a substance that kind of paralyzes them. They fall down to the floor of the hive and they die. The problem is that they can't really scratch them up there, and they can't really clean themselves up very well. But some of them do a better job of this. So there is nothing really foolproof at this time. Sorry. Now, here is another one. Another element of that perfect storm. And it is rising CO2. It comes with, I swear I'm going to get myself a small one of these things so I can plug it in. In 2013, for the first time, I'm going to have to speak fast. In 2013, for the first time, we ended up having the amount of CO2 that rose above 400 parts per million. And that is very, very serious, because what we've discovered is that the kind of pollen that the plant makes when there is a high CO2 level in the atmosphere does not contain as much protein. Basically, your pollen has got a little bit of sweet stuff and a little bit of protein. But when the protein is down and there is more sweet stuff, they're trying to do the same thing. They're trying to get more and more flowers. But they can't, because monocropping, because pesticides, because everything else. So they can't really get that either. I'm going to have to rush a little bit. But if they don't have enough protein to raise their brood, that is a problem. Now the solution is for us to choose good food, refuse food that has been adulterated with all of these products, and it's good for you, it's good for your children. Do you know, by the way, that they recently found some glyphosate in mother's milk? Human mothers. So we need to start doing a little bit of thinking. And the last one that I have, I guess I'll come just right, is misunderstanding our place in nature. Most of us are Christians, and we feel that God has given us the earth, and we have a privileged overview over all that He has given us. And it has kind of compounded the problem, the fact that we're looking as ourselves as the masters of the universe. Technically, no, we're not. Anytime that you look today at this kind of weather, were we able to stop that? No. Cyclones, high tide, low tide, we can't change an awful lot of things that is God-given. And maybe we have sinned. We have sinned by arrogance. It is sinful to think that we are the top dog, that we are better, and everything, every animal, every crop has to be subsumed under our command. And, well, maybe We have subjugated all of the creature of God's creation, and in so doing, we have soiled our own nest. The earth is our nest. It's the only one we have. So that's what it is. We really crapped up our nest. And we are going to be punished for this. I have a sneaky suspicion. I will entertain questions, but if you have been paying attention, you will see that I strongly believe in permaculture, which consists mostly in working with nature instead of against it. Observe nature, see what it gives us, see what the birds tell us, see what the crops tell us, and then act accordingly. Realize that these are precious gifts. If we are true Christians and we understand these as precious gifts of God, then we have a responsibility to be good stewards. Thank you.
That's right. Are there questions for Cecile?
Any questions? My, I really explained it, didn't I? Penny?
Any idea how many of your hives are still alive?
0. The last one just got it on April 4th when we got a foot of snow, which was, by the way, a record. So, yeah, I lost all of them. I had 15. And if you are interested in getting into beekeeping, you're not doing it for the money. Every hive, the cheapest that I was able to get them is $125, and I already have the wood and the frames and everything that I need. All I need is the critters, the animals themselves. It's $125 per hive. So multiply by 10. I'm not good at math, but yeah, it's a lot. Yeah, it's a lot. And the thing is, when you see our commercial beekeepers, they have thousands of hives. So when suddenly something goes bad for them, it really goes bad. It's very, very expensive. But you've seen from this presentation that there's lots and lots of things that are going wrong, and they're going wrong all at the same time. So we're in a pickle. Yes?
I like to share something that what's really terrible is I host bees when they come off the cranberry marshes on my farm. They rest there, then they go out to the almond fields and everything out west.
Yep.
The people that bring the bees to me lost over 1,500 hives because of an overspray out west last year.
That was that last year or the year before that there were like a whole bunch of them that died, and they died very stupidly because it was one of these things where the beekeepers were just about to get the bees off the almond groves, and they figure, an hour or two, what the heck, let's spray right now, and the bees were there. And those folks, unfortunately, they took their bees, they put them on the trucks, not realizing that what they had was dying bees. And they arrive at the next field, and
we as consumers have to speak out to let industry know that
oh yeah,
it's important.
Absolutely, it is really important to not be spraying stupidly. There was one thing, by the way, and I'm sorry to be such a downer today. And I'm not an entomologist, but I just read out of ABJ, American Bee Journal, the one I got like 2 days ago. There are 2 really bad things that come from a moth. One of them is the corn borer. That is a moth. The other one is the boll weevil that attacks the cotton. Guess what? They hybridized. And they're both resistant because we've been spraying some stuff on them. So now they're both resistant. Boll weevil and corn borer. They come from a moth.
They're resistant to BT.
They are resistant to, as far as I know, everything that's been thrown at them commercially. I don't know if locally people have been able to take care of that. Maybe on smaller acreage, you can do something a little different sometimes. But and you know, the thing is, those things are they're resistant to pesticides. We now have some superbug, and this one is the latest superbug. So
One more, and then
I had an experience with bees that probably nobody will ever have. A man had hives, and nobody would help him move them. So I took the time off and I helped him move his beehive. In turn, he showed me how to catch the wild bees. So I did. I started the wild beehives from the wild bees, and I was raising bees.
you're talking about wild honeybees or
Wild honeybees.
wild honeybees? Okay.
And then what happened
Yeah.
was the commercial beekeepers, pollinators come in there with the hundreds of hives. I had my hive boxes were all full. All of a sudden, these varmints come in there and stole all the honey from my bee box.
And that's
And so the beekeeper I was in contact with, he said, the only way you can save your hives is lock your bees up.
yeah, right.
Or, he said, you put poison outside on your hive and get rid of them bees.
Oh, jeez.
And he was an
Kill your own bees so
expert-
that
he
you
was
kill
an
the neighbor's
expert
bees?
beekeeper. He had thousands, I mean, he raised tons of honey.
Yeah.
He had the spinners to get the honey out, he had everything.
Oh, I built my own
He
spinner.
was an expert beekeeper, that was one experience I had with these honeybees.
That is where
I planted
sometimes.
buckwheat, and you never seen so many honeybees in your life on that buckwheat field. I
Yeah.
planted it 2 years ago.
You know, another thing that we used to have a long time ago, by the way, before the 80s, we used to have a beehive, and you could actually get 200 pounds of honey out of one beehive. Nowadays, if you can pull out 60 pounds out of one, it was a good year. So that is how stressed those bees are. They just have nowhere to go. And we keep putting more and more and more and more crap. You got me going right
No,
now.
I know, I'm gonna cut, just wait.
You're gonna cut me off?
For a minute. I just make a few announcements and then
Okay,
I'll let
all
you
right,
keep
all
going.
right.
I want to first give a hand applause to Cecile.